"You're an unfit mother, Jessica. Those children deserve better than a deadbeat who sits on her computer all day." Those were the last words Patricia Mitchell screamed at me, before she called Child Protective Services, while I was literally deciding a case that would affect 300 million Americans. Yeah, the Supreme Court of the United States, 8 other justices on screen, constitutional law hanging in the balance, the future of reproductive rights in America. And this woman, this self-appointed family expert from Ohio, really thought she was about to save my children from their own mother. But here's what she didn't know. I had 12 minutes left in oral arguments. And when CPS knocked on my door during those 12 minutes, let's just say, Patricia Mitchell was about to learn why you don't mess with the judicial branch of government. My name is Justice Jessica Rodriguez Williams. I'm the youngest Supreme Court justice in American history, 38 years old with a lifetime appointment, and the woman who tried to have my children taken away during a constitutional hearing. She was about to be escorted out by federal marshals, in handcuffs, on live television. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story gets absolutely insane. Patricia Mitchell hated me from day one, not because I was a bad person, not because I mistreated her son, because I refused to play the role she'd written for me. See, when David brought me home to meet his family 8 years ago, Patricia had very specific expectations. The future Mrs. Williams would be soft-spoken, deferential, maybe a teacher or a nurse, something appropriate for a woman. Instead, she got a Harvard Law graduate who just made partner at the most prestigious firm in Chicago, a black woman from Detroit who didn't apologize for taking up space, a feminist who expected her son to do his share of housework and childcare. Patricia's first words to me, "Oh, you're not what I pictured." I should have known right then that we were going to have problems. For 8 years, Patricia waged a subtle war against my existence. Nothing obvious enough for David to call her out completely, but constant enough to make every family gathering feel like psychological warfare. When I worked late, she'd sigh dramatically, those poor children eating dinner without their mother again. When I traveled for cases, she'd shake her head sadly. Emma asked me why Mommy doesn't want to be home with her. When I got promoted, she'd smile sweetly. Must be nice having diversity initiatives to help your career along. Always delivered with perfect deniability. Always designed to make me question myself. Always designed to make me feel like I was failing at the most important job I'd ever have. Then came the Supreme Court nomination. When President Martinez called to offer me the nomination, I thought Patricia might finally be proud. Her daughter-in-law, nominated to the highest court in the country at 36 years old. Instead, I walked into their house for dinner that night to find Patricia watching Fox News coverage of my nomination with this expression like someone had died. "Well," she said without looking up, "I suppose you got what you wanted." "Patricia, I've been nominated to the Supreme Court. This is historic." "Historic for you, maybe. What about Emma and Jordan? What about David? Did anyone ask them if they wanted their mother to be even more unavailable than she already is?" David stepped in. "Mom, this is an incredible honor. You should be proud of Jessica. I'm proud of what's best for this family, and I'm not sure this appointment qualifies." That night, lying in bed, David was furious. "I'm going to talk to her. This has gone too far." "Don't," I said. "Let her show herself. People always do eventually." I had no idea how right I was about to be. The Senate confirmation process was a nightmare. 3 months of political theater, personal attacks, and constitutional law questions designed to trip me up. Patricia watched every minute of coverage, not to support me, to build a case against me. During the hearing, senators questioned my judicial philosophy, my experience, my temperament, standard stuff for Supreme Court nominations. But Patricia was taking notes on different things. How many times I mentioned balancing work and family, how often David appeared in the gallery supporting me, whether Emma and Jordan looked neglected in family photos. She started calling my parenting choices evidence. Evidence of what I didn't know yet. But I was about to find out. The day the Senate voted to confirm me 78-22, a landslide, David threw a celebration party. Patricia showed up an hour late, stayed 20 minutes, and left without congratulating me. Her parting words were, "I hope you know what you've done to this family. Those words echoed in my head as I turned to the work in front of me. Hendricks v. State of Texas wasn't just any case. It was the abortion case everyone had been waiting for, the one that would determine whether states could effectively ban abortion by setting impossible early deadlines. 6 weeks, before most women even know they're pregnant. I'd been preparing for 3 months. This case would likely define my entire tenure on the court. The night before oral arguments, I stayed up until 3 a.m., reviewing briefs, crafting questions, anticipating every possible legal angle. David took the kids to school that morning so I could have complete focus for the most important hearing of my career. At 9:45 a.m., I was seated in my home office, temporarily designated a Supreme Court satellite chamber, connected to my 8 fellow justices and prepared to make constitutional history. 15 minutes later, Chief Justice Roberts called the court to order. By 10:07, Patricia Mitchell's plan was already in motion. "Your Honor, if I may speak to the court's precedent in Casey," the attorney began, eyes locking on the camera. That's when the doorbell rang. I ignored it. This was the Supreme Court. You don't pause for door-to-door salesmen. The attorney continued his argument about state authority versus individual rights. The doorbell rang again, then pounding, heavy, official pounding. Through my office window, I could see a white sedan, government plates. My stomach dropped. "Child Protective Services, open the door." The other justices heard it. Justice Thomas raised an eyebrow. Justice Kagan looked alarmed. "Justice Rodriguez-Williams," Chief Justice Roberts said carefully, "do you need to address this interruption?" Every instinct screamed, yes, deal with CPS, protect my children, protect my family. But then, through my window, I saw Patricia Mitchell's car pulling up behind the CPS vehicle, and I understood. This wasn't about child welfare. This was sabotage. "No, Chief Justice," I said with ice-cold calm. "Please continue with arguments. This interruption appears to be based on false information and will be resolved through appropriate federal channels." Justice Thomas actually smiled. He knew exactly what I meant. Patricia Mitchell had just committed a federal crime. "Ma'am, we have a court order for immediate inspection." The CPS workers were getting aggressive. I could hear them radioing for backup. On my screen, the abortion case was reaching its critical moment. The attorney was arguing about constitutional privacy rights while I was literally fighting for my own family's privacy. The irony was not lost on me. "Justice Rodriguez-Williams," Chief Justice Roberts said, "I'm seeing some concerning activity at your location. Do you need federal assistance?" This was it, the moment that would define everything. I could handle this quietly, privately, let Patricia win by disrupting the most important case of my career. Or I could show her and the world what happens when you attack a Supreme Court justice. "Chief Justice, I'm formally requesting federal marshal intervention under Article 3 Emergency Protocols. This facility is currently under harassment by individuals who appear to have filed false reports to interfere with Supreme Court operations." The silence was absolute. Then Chief Justice Roberts, with the full weight of constitutional authority, "Marshal intervention authorized immediately. Code red response." Patricia Mitchell had just upgraded from family drama to federal crime. And federal marshals don't negotiate. 4 black SUVs arrived like they were extracting a diplomat from a war zone. 12 federal marshals, armed, trained, and very, very serious about protecting Supreme Court operations. The lead marshal, Commander Torres, approached the CPS workers with the kind of authority that makes people instantly comply. "United States Marshal Service, you are currently interfering with Supreme Court judicial proceedings. Step away from the residence immediately." The CPS supervisor stammered, "We have a valid court order." "Ma'am, your court order is invalidated by federal supremacy. You are interfering with constitutional law proceedings. Step away now or face federal prosecution." Meanwhile, Patricia Mitchell was standing by her car, slowly realizing that her anonymous tip was about to become a very public federal case. Commander Torres approached her next. "Ma'am, did you place the call that resulted in this CPS investigation?" Patricia tried to lie. I don't know what you're talking about. Ma'am, we have phone records, we have the complaint you filed, and we have jurisdiction over any interference with Supreme Court operations. I need you to place your hands behind your back. That's when Patricia Mitchell realized she'd just tried to weaponize government agencies against a federal judge during active court proceedings, while cameras were rolling. The handcuffs clicked in perfect sync with Justice Kavanaugh asking his next constitutional question. The case concluded flawlessly. I asked the questions that would shape the majority opinion. The court recessed for deliberation, and only then did I deal with my family crisis. When I finally opened my front door, Commander Torres was waiting with a very simple question. Justice Rodriguez-Williams, how do you want to proceed with prosecution? I looked at Patricia sitting in the back of a federal vehicle, finally understanding the magnitude of what she'd done. What are the charges? Interference with federal judicial proceedings, filing false reports to harass a federal official, conspiracy to disrupt government operations. She's looking at 2 to 5 years federal prison. Patricia's face went white. However, Commander Torres continued, given that this appears to be family-related rather than political terrorism, you have discretion in sentencing recommendations. I could have destroyed her. Federal prison time would have ruined her life completely. But looking at this broken woman who'd been so threatened by my success that she'd risk federal prosecution to stop me, I realized something. Destroying Patricia wouldn't prove my strength. It would just prove I was as small as she'd tried to make me. Federal probation, 2 years, 500 hours community service with working mothers' legal aid organizations, and she stays away from my family until she completes a program on supporting versus sabotaging family members' professional success. Commander Torres looked surprised. That's very lenient, Justice. I'm not interested in revenge, Commander. I'm interested in making sure this never happens to another working mother. The story exploded across social media within hours. Supreme Court Justice's mother-in-law arrested during abortion case hearing. Federal Marshals respond to fake CPS call during constitutional arguments. This is what happens when you try to sabotage a Supreme Court justice. But the real consequences were just beginning. The CPS supervisor who approved Patricia's investigation was fired. The agency implemented new protocols requiring background checks on complainants and verification of claims before action. The judge who signed the inspection order without proper review was censured by the State Judicial Commission. And Patricia Mitchell became the face of vindictive family members who weaponize government agencies against successful women. Her mugshot, crying, handcuffed, being loaded into a federal vehicle, went viral with the caption, "When keeping it patriarchal goes wrong." David sat across from me in our kitchen 3 weeks later. "I can't do this anymore, Jess," he said. "She's my mother, but what she did was unforgivable." "You don't have to choose between us." "Yes, I do. She tried to have our children taken away during the most important case of your career. She filed false reports with government agencies. She committed federal crimes to sabotage you." "David, she's still your mother. And you're my wife, the mother of my children, a Supreme Court justice who was literally interpreting constitutional law while my mother tried to destroy our family. There's no choice here, Jessica. I choose you. I choose our family. I choose the woman who showed incredible grace under the most ridiculous attack I've ever witnessed." The separation between David and his mother was swift, serious, and long overdue. He took full control of their relationship, which meant Patricia was cut off from regular access to Emma and Jordan. She was allowed supervised visits twice a month, with the clear understanding that any attempt to undermine me as a mother would result in complete termination of grandparental rights. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He just chose us. Patricia fought it for about a week before her lawyer explained that federal judges tend to take a dim view of people who interfere with Supreme Court operations. Her visitation requests were approved without contest. And do you know the shocking part? Patricia's community service assignment changed her, not in some beautiful redemptive way, in a harsh reality check way. Working with legal aid organizations, she met actual struggling mothers. Women working 3 jobs, going to school at night, raising kids in poverty while fighting for better lives. Women who would have killed for the opportunities and support I had. Women who looked at Patricia's concerns about my parenting and laughed in her face. "Lady," one mother told her, "your daughter-in-law has a Supreme Court justice salary, a supportive husband, quality childcare, and a stable home. What exactly are you complaining about?" Patricia couldn't answer, because for the first time she was confronted with what real hardship looked like. 3 months into her community service, Patricia called David. "I need to apologize to Jessica. Mum, I don't think she'd listen to you. Not for forgiveness, I don't deserve that, but because I finally understand what I almost destroyed." Patricia showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon. No advance warning, no dramatic setup. Just a 70-year-old woman who looked like she'd aged 5 years in 6 months. "Justice Rodriguez-Williams, could I have 5 minutes of your time?" I almost said no, but something in her posture, defeated, genuine, made me curious. 5 minutes. She sat across from my desk, hands folded, no longer the confident woman who'd declared war on my motherhood. "I met a woman named Maria," Patricia began. 28 years old, works as a night janitor, goes to nursing school during the day, has a 4-year-old daughter. Maria's mother-in-law calls CPS on her twice a year, says Maria's neglecting her daughter by going to school, says education is selfish when you have children to raise. Patricia's voice cracked. "Maria showed me the CPS reports. The language was almost identical to what I wrote about you. I saw myself in that woman, the mother-in-law. I saw the damage I was doing not just to you, but to the idea that women can want more than just motherhood." She looked up at me. "I don't want forgiveness. I want to understand how I became the kind of person who would try to destroy another woman's career out of jealousy." "Jealousy?" "Yes. Jealousy. You achieved everything I was too scared to even dream about. Instead of being proud, I decided you must be failing somewhere else to make myself feel better about settling for less." The honesty was brutal and refreshing. "What do you want from me, Patricia?" "Permission to tell this story. At conferences, at women's groups, wherever people will listen. I want other family members to see what happens when you try to tear down successful women. I want to be the cautionary tale that prevents other mothers-in-law from making my mistake." 6 months later, I'm reviewing briefs when my assistant buzzes in. "Justice Rodriguez-Williams, you have a call from the National Working Mothers Association. They want to invite you to speak at their annual conference." "Standard speaking request." "Well, there's a wrinkle. They want you to appear on a panel with someone named Patricia Mitchell." I nearly dropped my coffee. Apparently, Patricia had been speaking at working mothers events across the country. Her story, titled "How I Tried to Destroy a Supreme Court Justice and What It Taught Me About Women's Power," was drawing huge crowds. "She's not asking for rehabilitation," the conference organizer explained. "She's positioning herself as an example of how family members can sabotage successful women without realizing it." The feedback has been incredible. Women are standing up to relatives who guilt them about their careers. Mothers-in-law are examining their own behavior. "Would you consider appearing with her, not as reconciliation, but as education?" I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. "Yes, but I have conditions." 3,000 working mothers in a Chicago convention center. Me at a podium, facing an audience that included CEOs, doctors, lawyers, teachers, entrepreneurs, women who'd fought for their careers while raising families. Patricia at the opposite end of the stage, there not as my reconciled family member, but as a case study in how not to treat successful women. The moderator introduced us. Justice Rodriguez-Williams, the youngest Supreme Court justice in history, and Patricia Mitchell, whose attempt to sabotage Justice Rodriguez-Williams led to federal charges and ultimately to her current advocacy work. No warm reunion, no heartfelt reconciliation, just 2 women who'd learned very different lessons from the same conflict. I spoke for 20 minutes about work-life balance, federal judicial responsibilities, and the reality of being a working mother in high-pressure careers. Then, Patricia took the microphone. "I want to tell you about the worst thing I've ever done," she began. For the next 15 minutes, she detailed exactly how she'd tried to destroy me. The surveillance, the documentation, the weaponizing of CPS during a Supreme Court hearing. The audience was riveted and horrified. "I didn't do this because I thought Jessica was a bad mother," Patricia continued. "I did it because her success made me feel like a failure. Instead of examining my own insecurities, I decided she must be failing somewhere to make myself feel better. I nearly destroyed a federal judge's career because I couldn't handle the fact that she'd achieved more than I'd ever dreamed possible." The room was dead silent. How many of you have family members who make comments about your work hours, your ambition, your priorities? Nearly every hand went up. That's what I was. I was the family member who made you feel guilty for wanting more. And I want you to know that when we do that, it's not about concern for your children. It's about our own fear that your success reveals our limitations. The applause was thunderous. After the conference, Patricia and I didn't hug. We didn't have a tearful reconciliation. We shook hands. "Justice Rodriguez-Williams, thank you for not destroying me when you could have. Patricia, thank you for becoming a teachable moment for other families. Will you ever forgive me?" I thought about it honestly. I don't know, but I respect what you're doing now. That's enough. That was 3 years ago. Today, Patricia Mitchell runs a non-profit called Family Support Networks that specifically helps relatives understand how to support rather than sabotage ambitious family members. She's spoken at over 200 conferences. Her story has been featured in Harvard Business Review, Working Mother magazine, and a documentary about family dynamics and professional success. She sends me updates twice a year, not personal letters seeking reconciliation, but professional reports on the work she's doing to prevent other families from imploding the way ours did. Last month's report helped 47 families resolve conflicts between career ambitions and family expectations, prevented 12 CPS calls that appeared to be motivated by professional jealousy rather than genuine child welfare concerns. I don't respond to these reports, but I read them. And sometimes, late at night when I'm reviewing cases that will shape American law for generations, I think about the strange way justice actually works. Patricia Mitchell tried to destroy my career during the most important moment of my professional life. Instead, she accidentally created a movement of women supporting women. She thought calling CPS would prove I was an unfit mother. Instead, she proved that some people will go to criminal lengths to tear down successful women. She wanted to make me smaller. Instead, she made herself into an advocate for women everywhere who refuse to be diminished. Here's what I want you to understand. I didn't win this fight because I'm a Supreme Court justice with federal protection. I won because I refused to let someone else's insecurity become my limitation. Patricia Mitchell spent years trying to convince me I was too much, too ambitious, too focused on career, too unwilling to shrink myself for her comfort. When that didn't work, she escalated to federal agencies. When that backfired spectacularly, she had to confront the truth. The problem was never my success. The problem was her inability to handle it. Your family members who question your ambitions, they're not protecting your children. They're protecting their own comfort zones. Your relatives who suggest you're too focused on career. They're not worried about your priorities. They're worried that your success reveals their own limitations. And when people try to use your children as weapons against your dreams, whether it's guilt trips or actual government agencies, remember this. The best thing you can teach your children is that strong women don't back down, even when the people who should support them decide to destroy them instead. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had family members try to sabotage your career? How did you handle it? Hit subscribe if you want more stories about women who refuse to be diminished by the people who should have been cheering them on. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is keep succeeding, despite everyone who thinks you should fail. This is Justice Jessica Rodriguez-Williams, reminding you that your dreams don't need anyone else's permission, not even your family's.